What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on ChargePoint. It's been a while since I've given an update, so I want to go over some of the data points, what's been coming up from the company, and just generally based on everything as of right now, where I see things going from here. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So currently it is up 3%, but it did have a little bit more of a volatile start to the day. That was because of unemployment rate being a little bit higher than the forecast. So I think it had the market on edge a little bit, but it did make a new 52-week and all-time low of $4.05. As far as recently, there's been no news, no SEC filings, nothing like that. So it has just been following the technicals in ChargePoint's case and just the broader market. But unfortunately, based on the technicals, at least over the last little bit, it has been a falling knife ever since their earnings. The earnings definitely kickstarted this downtrend. But I'll give you an overview of everything, including options. So starting off with options today, there's around $330,000 in calls being purchased versus $795 in puts. So based on this information, people are anticipating for this to kind of trend down a little bit, and maybe just the fact that this is just a technical bounce, not necessarily to change the long-term trend, if that kind of makes sense. As far as if we kind of zoom out, actually even more so looking at the 7-day, ultimately around $4.18 million in calls being purchased versus 11 million in puts. So once again, kind of the trend has been set on ChargePoint. If you are optimistic, this shows all the strike prices, expiry dates of the calls. So based on this information right here, it is anticipated to be roughly between the $4.50 and $5 range by the end of next week. So obviously take that with a grain of salt, because options activity is just merely a sentiment. It does not move the stock price. But on the flip side, a lot of people are anticipating, by looking at the puts, it to be sub $4 by the end of next week. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind. As far as this, there's been hardly any big transactions on the secondary market. A couple of big ones yesterday, so 133 and 145 million, but still definitely fairly low. But even more so looking at the volume, just the volume on ChargePoint has been dramatically lower. So 6.8 million shares being traded, 12.6 is the average. These are some of the transactions that have occurred on the dark pool, and dark pool is very much linked to shorting, which kind of has had ChargePoint in its grasp for a while now. But oddly, even in that regard, there's been hardly any transactions on the dark pool. So last being on October the 2nd. So I'll give you an overview of what shorts are doing and everything else that you need to know. So starting off, and a plus on a side note, I'm only bringing this up merely because as a benchmark, not here to say ChargePoint is going to be a squeeze. So short score is currently 89.51, utilization is 90.5. As far as what they are doing today, they're increasing 1.05 million shares. So the fact that they are increasing on a green day kind of shows and signals that they feel that it's an overreaction and that in fact should be going down. 22.69% of the free float is being shorted, 73.79 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 14.61, and based on this interactive broker short availability, there's around 2.4 million shares available to be shorted. So if shorts really wanted to, they can double down. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind. One thing I just wanted to bring up, it looks like there was a new analyst rating from Needham, and that was Chris Pierce, who does have a 23% success rating. So take that with a grain of salt. And also on a side note, just on a tangent, I've noticed that why is all the bad analysts always covering EV stocks and just the EV sector? It just does not make sense. Like, even if you look at some of these analyst ratings, like, they are bad. Well, Mark from Goldman Sachs, 59%, but still 44%, 60, 40, 51, 47, 45, 44, 0%. How can you be 0% success rating? That makes no sense. But still, I have no idea. That's something I've been noticing, is just a lot of the EV sectors ratings are just horrible. But I guess that's maybe correlated with the whole EV sector just going down. But he did give a $8 price target, so this is a little bit more of an update for that. And they haven't announced their Q3 earnings just as of yet, but analysts have already started to adjust some of their estimates. So as it stands, there's currently around 10 analysts that have given estimates with a consensus of negative 13 cents per share, and that's for the earnings per share. So that did go down a little bit. So 2 new bearish analysts did jump on board. And when it comes down to revenue, there is a lot more interest when it comes down to that. So it did go from 14 estimates to 18, so 4 new analysts, and currently there's around $157.06 million for assumed revenue in Q3. So let me know your thoughts on that. That's kind of in line with the previous quarter, which it did come in at 150.49. So kind of in line with that. What's your viewpoint on the upcoming Q3 earnings? I know that might be a little bit more premature to talk on, but still something to keep in mind. If you are looking for a lot of good compiled information, such as analyst ratings, forecasts, everything under the sun, take a look at Interactive Brokers. I do have a link in the description below and also the comments for all of this information to be completely free. So take advantage of that while you can. But when it comes down to it, like I've said, I've covered the shorts, the options, and everything else. Let's talk on the actual technicals right now though. So on the chart, it looks fairly bad. So that's plain and simple. But as far as right now, $4.26, it is between this S2 and this S1. So $4 is a very strong support, vice versa, $4.67 is a very strong resistance. So it kind of did bounce off of the general area of the S2. So that kind of kick-started this value rally essentially, because typically around these pivot points, if there is a strong enough support or resistance, it does bounce off of that. And depending on if it's justified or not, then it will either continue up, down, sideways. But I do feel that the trend overall, especially based on every other data point that I did bring up, they all do signal that unfortunately ChargePoint is going to continue to trend down. So if it does break this $4 mark, then you have to anticipate $2.92. But when it comes down to a lot of these, there is a lot or a fairly big gap. So between 4 and 467. So you have to anticipate that there's going to be a lot of volatility with ChargePoint. But I do feel maybe after their Q3 earnings, probably more so their Q4, it will start to improve. And plus you can kind of tell that looking here, analysts are assuming the exact same thing. So the Q4 might be a little bit more advantageous than the Q3, but I still do feel that at least in the short term, it might be continuing to trend down. And then longer term, then yes, I feel like they're starting to at least make the necessary changes that they need to do. So let me know your thoughts on ChargePoint in the comments below. Give yourself a shout out in the comments if you are brave enough or have been brave enough to add to your position. I have been selling puts on ChargePoint. Typically, I've been fairly lucky because I just kind of look at the technicals. And in case you guys do not know options, if you are either selling covered calls or just selling calls or selling puts, your goal is just to ultimately collect the premium. If not, then you get to buy a company at the price that you want. So ChargePoint's sell-off has been very advantageous to sell puts. So if you guys don't know options, I highly suggest in researching them because they can be very profitable and beneficial. But with all that said, I appreciate all of you watching. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. But one final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo that I've been sharing with you. It has been extended up until October the 20th. Just sign up for an account with 𝗪𝗜𝗧𝗛, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So this is one of the best deals that you can get on the market. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching, and let's all make a lot of money on ChargePoint.